Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, and the mic is just getting warmed up as the guardian of the blue paint turned writer is about to enlighten us. A show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. For this week's show, Green's annual 7th round mock draft for the Philadelphia Flyers. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink. Join Lance Green and SteelFlyers as we bring you all the latest on the Flyers.
Hi guys, welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink. I'm your host, Lance Green.
And as always, I'm your co-host, SteelFlyers, and Lance, the writer extraordinaire, the guardian of the blue paint turned writer, the editor-in-chief. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah, you're doing pretty well. We're here on this fine Memorial Day, doing a little recording, guys, here. So, muy appreciado for y'all joining us and watching us, and really appreciate that. Lance is your host, and we are a Philadelphia Flyers hockey podcast called the Hockey Writers Ink. We are on episode 125, and we get to celebrate, folks. That's right. We get to celebrate because Lance Green has unleashed his mock draft for the Philadelphia Flyers, and here we are, episode 125, Lance's annual mock draft for the Philadelphia Flyers for the draft of 2023. And oh my gosh, this is some awesomeness, man. Come on.
Yeah, I worked really hard on it. As always, I put it out every year, for those guys that follow me know this. And, I am deep into prospects, as we all know.
Yes.
We both host this Prospect Watch show. There's our other show where we have some of these guys that I'm going to even mention have been on the show.
I know.
Recently this year, and we just do this all year long. We study leagues from all over the world all year long to bring you, the best that we can on these prospects and information that other people just don't care to do or don't have the time or whatever to do. So this is our thing. And, in the past, I've gotten Cutter Gauthier right with their first pick, and as well as Tyson Forster.
Yeah.
As who I think the team should select it those years. So we'll see if I get it right this year.
This is one of the things that I love about what you do, Lance. Look, I'm not trying to take anything away from any of the other writers that write for the Flyers or any other team for that matter, and that's all great. But one of the things that I like about what you do, Lance, is that you do the all of their draft picks. However many they have, you have a name and a reason why they should pick that player for each one of those draft picks. And that's one of the reasons why I love reading your stuff. And it's part of what we do, man. We're part of the prospects. We're part of that pool. We're part of, watching the next group of talent come up and see what they're going to be like. You know what I mean? And when you spend enough time around these kids and you get to see this talent, you realize, hey, this guy belongs on this team. Guy will be good on this team, or these are some guys that the Flyers should be looking at up, and whatever the case is. There's some of those guys on Lance's list, and we really want to get into it. So I'm really excited about this, Lance. I look forward to your list every year because, for the most part, it's been pretty much, who the Flyers should take. They've listened on a couple of occasions, So let's see if maybe we can pound them home again this year with the new regime that's in place, and some of the things that need to happen here, other than just painting the walls with a new coat of paint. You know what I mean? You got rookies that are now going to have to try to right this really large ship that has a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that are contingent on a lot of other things. And I just really was kind of hoping for more of a experienced crew instead of more of a rookie crew.
Well, me too, but
it is what it is, and we got to give them the shot. So
right,
here we are.
Here we go. Right. So, I guess the first player that I would say with that first pick. Yep. I think that the Flyers need to focus on hitting on a player that is going to be that face of the franchise type guy, that that guy that is an offensive dynamo that can go out there and get you a point at any time he steps on the ice. He's a danger, right?
And
And
that's what the Flyers have lacked, is that guy on the team that jumps over the boards that the coach goes, you need to take care of that guy.
right. The Flyers in the past have taken those players that are good all around players, defensively sound or whatever like that, but they're not, exceptional at any one piece of the game. And they're not the Connor McDavids, they're not the Alexander Ovechkins or anything like that. We need that type of person, and I think that talent that could sell a lot of jerseys and excite the fans to come back into the league is an Andrew Crystal. There's a lot of other guys out there that the
Oh,
Flyers could take at this point, but
oh.
a lot of those other guys are played with an amazing team like Team USA with the Will Smiths and the Gabe Perreaults, Ryan Leonard's and the Oliver Moores. Okay, they all played for the same team. They all played essentially on the same line together. And, their numbers are inflated to me in that sense. I want a guy that shows me, since the Flyers are so bare as far as, prospects go and in some senses, and
And
talent
scoring
goes,
talent and
and
or
scoring
depth.
talent goes, right, in depth, that I want a guy that has proven that he can do it by himself. And that is Andrew Crystal from the Rockets of the WHL, in my mind. Okay, he scored 39 goals, 56 assists for 95 points in only 54 games this year. All right, and if you do the
Only
math,
54 games.
right, and if you do the math, he scored at a rate of 1.76 points per game this season.
Oh my
All
gosh.
right, and to put that in better perspective, he was one of 29 players on the team. The other 29 players on that team that dressed, that were either offense or defense for the team, only came out to a mean or average of scoring 16.5 points this season. Okay, that means essentially he was the force that drove this team offensively all year long.
Oh my gosh. Responsible 70% of the offense of the whole team.
Right.
One
So
guy.
right. So he did it all for this team. Um, and throughout this long season, he took him to the playoffs and everything like that and carried him on his back. And that's why I think this guy really was that that one player that the Flyers really need
Yeah.
to bring home and build around,
Yeah.
and to add him to the Cutter Gauthiers and the Tyson Forresters and the Owen Tippetts is just something that is really, getting me excited to this point of potentially landing a player
Could
of
you
his offensive
imagine?
caliber.
Could you imagine getting a finisher like that on this team? And now that you got an Owen Tippett who's also kind of going down that road as well,
Right.
do you know what I mean? And oh my gosh, man, the potential for that. Look, for many times the Flyers pick the best athlete, but I think they need to pick the best center in this draft. I think they need to start doing positional drafts, man, because uh, just picking the best athlete I mean, some of these guys aren't even signing with the team. Do you know what I mean? Like you need to get guys that are a spot. You need a center, so draft a center or a guy that can play center really well, or that's his natural position. I
Well,
mean, it's not rocket science here, folks. We have looked at and we all thought Leonard or Smith or Moore or some of these guys would potentially fall to the Flyers. But if Andrew Cristall is available for the Philadelphia Flyers, Danny, Jonesy, you got to pick this young man, because what was one of the main highlights that we saw in the playoffs the last 2 years? McDavid weaving in and out of four players to score the goal. That's what this kid can do by himself. Kid on the team. All right. Round two. Oh, The Flyers don't have a round 2.
Well, they don't have a second round pick, but they do have players that they could trade that could garner them a second round pick.
All right.
They have to free up some capital to be able to re-sign some other
Subtraction.
players. Right. They need to go through some subtractions, some players that just haven't worked. Plus, they have multiple third and fourth round picks that we'll get into. So they could essentially find some way to garner themselves a second round pick. So just for,
So I woke up July 1st,
right,
right? And the Flyers picked in the first round Andrew Cristal, and they
right,
made a trade and got a second round pick. And
right.
and if I woke up July 1st, who would that second round pick be?
Well, if I were drafting, it would be Danny Moran from the Manhattan
Oh,
Wildcats of the
oh,
Quebec Major Junior Hockey
yes,
League,
sir.
right? Um, Moran is a player who we had on our other podcast, the Prospect Watch, and he is a defensive defenseman, but he can also jump up into the play and score some points as well. He's a complete player. He's six
Complete.
foot. He's 6 foot tall, 183 pounds. He's a left-hand shot defenseman. Um, but he's scored at over a point per game this season. He scored 21 goals, 51 assists for 72 points in just 67 games played. But on top of that, he was a plus 29, which means he's defensively responsible as well. Um, on top of that,
He's your kind of defenseman, isn't he?
yes, for sure. He is, you know, defense first, but then he will jump up into play if need be. He can make that all strong outlet pass. He can go up there himself and score the goal. Or he, the best part, ends up people at the blue line, and he puts them on their butts, open ice hits, whatever case may be, takes them totally out of the play. Much like a Scott Stevens did or a young Dion Phaneuf. Okay, he is that physical defenseman that the
Wow.
Flyers lack since trading Racco Gudis, but he obviously is a much better defenseman. Could potentially be a top four defenseman for the Flyers in the future if they select him. But again, it's all
It's all, yeah, I
speculation.
get you, but like if
It's
they
all
traded,
containing if they can get a
yeah,
second round
no,
pick.
I understand, but if they traded Provorov,
Right.
packaged him up with an extra third round pick or whatever, to trade to get the second round pick, I would be okay with taking Moran. Look, we interviewed this kid, and he is the real deal, right? I have. It's been a long time since I've seen a defenseman who plays defense first and then is still capable of doing. So that's why I'm saying I would not have a problem getting rid of Provorov if Moran was coming to the team, because I think he's got more uh defensive potential than Provorov will ever have, and I think he's better defensively than Provorov all day long.
Mhm.
Okay, so I would much rather have a guy that's more defensive minded, that's going to do the defensive things first, like stand guys up at the blue line, make that initial first crisp pass out of the, that kind of thing, being responsible 9 yards. When somebody pinches in, they're swinging back around to cover the back end or whatever the case is. You know what I'm talking about, right? Plus players. He's a plus 29. Come on, let's go.
Yep.
All right.
Makes
So
sense.
that's a team. That's we would love to see that happen. But in the reality, Flyers have some third round picks.
Multiple
So
second
let's
round,
focus
third
on
round picks. Yeah.
those third round picks that the Flyers do have. Now, I would be okay with trading a third round pick away or a fourth round pick away or any one of our lower end picks to get a higher end pick. I'm all for that. So, the third round, first selection of the third round, the Philadelphia Flyers, who should they select?
Well, if they keep both of those third round picks or whatever like that, we'll go with Nick Lardis from the
Oh,
Hamilton Bulldogs.
nice.
He was a very, very talented winger for them this year. He played on two different OHL teams this year. He was traded mid-season, but he combined uh, for stats of 37 goals, 28 assists for 65 points scored in 69 games. His offensive talents and skating ability are amazing,
Yeah.
but he
Yeah.
still needs to work a little bit on his defense, as do
Yeah.
most young players.
Yeah.
That's why he's, predicted to be drafted in the third round and not the first or second. Let's be obvious.
And,
So
and most of these guys that are in the third round, we all know are at least 2 years away ish. Right. So,
right.
okay.
So he can focus on more of his game, building up better parts of his game that are lacking and everything like that. But he did play really, really well for Canada's U18 championship team
Played
there.
really well.
Yeah, he scored 4 goals in 7 games, and really showed out on a deep, deep Canada team there. So quite a pick at third round if they could get him offensively. I think
I'm
he
with you.
will have a lot better numbers even next year playing in juniors if it stays with Hamilton all season long.
Which
So.
I'm pretty sure he's probably going to, no matter what happens. You know what I mean? So I'm with you on that. I really like that pick as well. And we all know that the first probably 60 players that are going to come off the board, right, are going to be probably the top 60 of all the players that are in the draft. At least that's kind of what I'm predicting anyway. The teams are going to be snatching up these young players because I believe that the first 2 rounds of this draft are quite deep. But I also believe too that when we start getting into the third and fourth rounds is where you're going to start getting the defensemen and the goaltenders that the top 60 guys that are the wingers and the centers. You know what I mean? So, but I like that as a third round pick. I think he's a good player. He did play really well in the under 18 worlds and showed out really well as far as playing on a deep Canada team. So, and he was a plus player there too. So, our second third round pick, if not traded, would go to.
Yeah, I would utilize that in drafting Scott Rasloff of the Seattle Thunderbirds, a
Oh,
goaltender.
yes,
All right.
sir.
We all know the Flyers' struggles at goaltender still exist. Carter Hart's questionable over these past couple of years. He's still young, but he's struggled. And we're losing out on Ivan now. Fedotov, he's pretty much said that he's going to go back to the KHL now that his
Well,
service in the military is done. Right.
They said that he's going back to the KHL.
Right. Yeah. He's not going to be allowed to come over here.
No.
The Flyers. I think Russia still remembers what the Flyers did to their great team back in the days with the bullies, but and they're still not too happy about that. So in a sense, I would take this kid. Right. He's going to be a amazing young goaltender. I think. In his own right. He had to split the season with another great goaltender there in Seattle this year, but next year he will have the net to himself. He's a 6'1" guy, 172 pounds, a butterfly goalie that was very poised and calm in the net. He's only 17 years old now, but he still was able to win 25 regular season games this year, even when he was only sharing the net, right? So imagine what he's going to be able to do when he has the net to himself next season.
And he's 17 and he's 6'1", so I mean, he's probably going to at least get another inch or two on him at least. He's probably going to get at least another more couple pounds on him at least too, you know what I mean? So he'll fill up a little bit more too.
Right. But on top of that, he led the WHL in shutouts this season, despite him sharing the net and only playing half the games. So that's pretty exceptional because, I mean, you think about it, the WHL alone has a wealth of players that are going to be drafted in the first round this year. So every single night he was having to go against the Connor Bednards, with the Regina Pats, the Zach Bensons with the Winnipeg Ice, the Andrew Crystals, who we just talked about with the Rockets, the Riley Heights with the Prince Georgia Cougars, and the Braden Yeagers of the Moose Jaw Warriors. Like every single night, he was having an exceptional talent that is going to be, drafted in the first round. He was shutting them out, right? So I think he's going to be a phenomenal, phenomenal goaltender. I'd really like me being a goaltender for my whole life. I really like what I see out of this kid. He's very clean, very polished already, and
Yeah,
at only
being so
17 years
young,
old.
he
Only
has good
17 years old.
technique.
Yeah,
He has good technique, man. He has good he has good um post discipline too. Do you know what I mean? When you see guys coming back around from behind the net, do you know what I'm saying? He has good post discipline, and that I think, especially in today's NHL, where you're seeing guys doing more of the creative type goals, where they're flipping it up over the goalie's shoulder or whatever, because there's that little gap right there between the post and the goalie, and you know what I mean? And so I think that's a very important skill set that's maybe a little bit overlooked as well too.
hmm
I like this kid as well. I everything that I've seen about him points to being a top flight goalie in the NHL. It just opportunity. Of course, you know, everybody needs the opportunity and things like that, but we'll see. All right, here we go. I want to get into these next ones here, man, because these are exciting. Okay. And now we're talking about the fourth round of the Flyers in their draft this coming June. Okay, we've done the first round, we've done our wish second round, we did our two third rounds, and now Lance grace us with our first fourth round pick.
sure. So who I would pick would be a need out of the power forward realm that the Flyers did so well with over the years. You look at guys like Wayne Simmons, you think Scott Hartnell, you think Knuble, John LeClaire, Tim Kerr, Rick Tocchet, all these guys were power forwards, right? And this was when the Flyers were in their heyday, right? They ruled the NHL and they were successful in Philadelphia because they had these great power forwards, these big strong guys that could stand in front of the net, gain the rebounds and put them back in, or deflect and really get those dirty goals, win board battles, all those things. And this guy,
Perfect way to
right,
describe it.
right, and this guy, who I'm about to suggest in Zach Naring from Shawshank St. Mary's U18 prep team, is that kind of guy. He's 6'3", 179 pounds, and he just
Has that body
embodies
style.
that. He
Yeah,
embodies that kind of play style. He loves to finish a check. He will knock people literally off the puck and onto the seat of their pants every single time, to regain that puck and to go driving towards the net. And it's refreshing to see that kind of hockey still in today's game, because they're trying to get to that kindler, gentler, finesse sort of thing. And
yeah,
I think
whatever.
that's not what the Flyers were built on. They were built on that gritty player, and that this kid is. And he is committed to Western Michigan University, which just so happens Wade Allison, Ronnie Attard, and the newly appointed Hockey of Operations, Keith Jones, were all alumni from. So he may
Did you
be
hear
looking
that,
towards them,
Western
right?
Michigan?
Right. So they may look to him. Who knows, right?
All right. I mean, that's something he's got going for him, right? No, look, kid's got the body style. He plays it that way. He does. He plays it that way. It's great to see young players doing that kind of style of play, being that pest in front of the net, being that guy that's going to go into the dirty areas of the boards and be part of that forecheck, right? That's what I like about this kid, and I think he would be a great fourth round pick for the Flyers. That he would be a great depth forward for them. You know what I mean? And would be a good addition to this edition. So, all right, here we go. Talk about the next fourth round selection.
Right. So again, we're going to go back to offense here. The Flyers need to
Not
get
like
some
we need it or
exciting,
anything.
right? They need some exciting players in their cupboard, right? They don't. It's kind of bare right now, and this guy is exciting. And Aiden Fink from the Brooks Bandits of
Yes,
the
please. Yes,
Alberta
please.
Junior Hockey League, right? We've had him on our show prior on Prospect Watch. We got to sit down with him. We're lucky enough, thanks, Nathan from Brooks, to be able to get that done. Their PR guy, he was great to us this season, and I really just like this guy. He's a guy that Danny, I think, will like as well, and see a lot of him in himself as well. Again, he's a smaller guy. He's only 5'9", so this is why this guy with this much offensive talent has fallen to this late in the draft. But you know, the Bandits have put out some great players that people didn't really know about at the time and passed over, so they got them and they flourished, right? You think of the great Cal McCarr. He was a Brooks Bandits alum. Ryan McAllister, who played for Western Michigan this year, he was a Brooks
Hey,
Bandits
another
alum.
Ryan, another Western Michigan.
Right. Western Michigan guy, right? That lit up the season, was leading the NCAA as a freshman for most of the year before Fantilli took over. You have TJ Hughes that had a great season, great couple seasons for Brooks, and then went to University of Michigan. And Zach Bookman as well, who broke Cal McCarr's junior records in points and then now carried on to play in the NCAA as well. So, this is just the next guy from the Bandits that is coming out in that sense. And, he was the league's MVP this year. He finished the AJHL season with 41 goals, 56 assists for a league-leading 97 points in only 54 games played, which has him scoring at a rate of 1.80 points per game this season. And then, better yet, because the Flyers are out of Pennsylvania, it's a good thing that Aiden Fink just committed to play for the Nittany Lions of
Playing in the
Pennsylvania.
backyard.
Right, so he's going to be playing right here in the great state of Pennsylvania, where the Flyers are from. So, why not draft this kid who you can keep an eye on pretty close, who's going to be playing for a great Nittany Lions program that they have built up recently over the years.
Exactly.
And, at this late in the draft, it's an exceptional talent that, is coming from a smaller league that is gaining a lot more respect than it has in the past, because it's starting to produce such great talents that I just named.
Exactly. And just even from one team.
Yep.
I mean, we rattled off like 3-4 names just from one team, the Brooks Bandits that, have gone on to have successful NHL careers or just starting NHL careers. You know what I'm saying? So I'm excited. I think that, look, when you get to sit down and talk to these guys and you study them for any length of time, you get to see what kind of game they have and things like that. And I got to tell you, Aiden has got a great game. I think he would be a great fit for the Flyers. I think it would be a shot to be able to see this young man drafted. If he, because his size, he might be this late in the draft. He may even earlier. You know what I mean? I could see him drafted in maybe the latter third round as well. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't have a problem with him at all. I would love to have him on the team. All right. Here we go. 5th round, baby. 5th round.
Yep.
We have a special place in our heart for this pick.
Well, this is another player that we got to interview this year on Prospect Watch. And, he's from the United States Hockey League with the Cedar Rapids Rough Riders, right? And the name might sound familiar, and here's why. His name is Zachariah Wisdom. Now, as you know, the Flyers selected his brother, Zade.
That name before, Wisdom.
Right. The Flyers selected his brother in the 4th round back in 2020, Zade, right? So, but unlike Zade, who is very small, diminutive player, but a bulldog in a sense, Zach Zach is pretty big. He's got an NHL frame at 6'1" and 172 pounds already, and he looks and plays bigger than that if you watch his games.
Yeah.
Right. So he's this year in the United States Hockey League. He scored 28 goals, 20 assists for 48 points this season. He is a power forward player, I would say. He has some talent with the puck on his stick to be able to skate with it as well. But he's a bulldog. He lays some huge hits.
Oh my gosh, this guy is driven. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
and
he
driven,
loves the physical game.
Right. So all those great things that the Flyers, have built their franchise up around, and to know that their players are going to be rough and tumble players that are gritty, that battle. This is just another one of those guys that loves to get physical and beat up on the opposition. And he in the USHL this year, I don't think there's anybody that was laying the kind of hits that he was. Just phenomenal hits.
I that's the kind of player you need. That you need that kind of a bulldog type player that's going to be in there for the forecheck, that's going to be in there, that's not afraid to go across the middle and take those guys out, because otherwise you get those players skating through your team and scoring goals a la Connor McDavid or, whatever. Right. So you need to be able to have that player that's willing to do that forecheck, willing to do that work, so that those players aren't there, and then have some offensive abilities yourself to be able to be a responsible winger. Look, I don't see Wisdom being a top four forward. Do you know what I mean? But where I do see him being really good at is either third or fourth line, right? And I also see him being really good in the penalty kill too. Okay, because he is defensive responsible, you know what I mean? And he does like to hit, and he does play a lot bigger than what he comes across. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's 6'1", 6'2", but he just has a larger presence on the ice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. I think he has a great head on his shoulder as well. I think he's very intelligent young player, and he's very humble. Comes, I think, as we know with Zade, has been through a lot. His mother, was a single mother that
sacrificed a lot.
That sacrificed everything to get these boys on the ice, and really, they've just, paying it back tenfold here, because they just made some amazing players as well as people in general. This is the type of guy that you want in your locker room, and want to go out there and show your young fan base, how to be a player, let alone a man in general. I think he's going to be a great young man, and I think he's world-class player as well.
All day long.
So great young talent to bring in, and hopefully be that gritty third or fourth line player in the future for the Flyers.
I'm with you, and I think all day long that they should reunite. And I would like to see even his brother get more of a chance.
Yeah.
Upcoming seasons as well, and instead of playing in the lower league, I'd like to see him play more either in the AHL or
I think
or
he
something.
Needs to play in the AHL. Yeah, he really needs to get some time there, and
yeah.
Yeah,
no, okay. So I'm with you on that. But Zachariah Wisdom, another great player that I love to have on the team. All right, sir. Flyers, 6th round. And the selection should be.
Yes. So I think they need a little bit of European flair, right? The Flyers, in a sense, have drafted North American players, either from the United States or Canada for some time. Right?
Has been either the Q or the W or the. I'm calling it USHL.
But in a sense, yeah, the roster is built up of North American type players, besides Provorov, but even him. He was playing the North American style game. He was over here. He moved over from Russia very young, and it, has that North American style game. So I think with that sense, they should go after a guy like Andrei Lushko, who played. Yeah, who played up in the queue as well this year.
Yeah.
All right, he is an 18-year-old player from Belarus that stands at 6'1" and about 170 pounds right now. And this season he was able to score 22 goals, 48 assists, and 70 points in only 67 games played up there. He's over a point per game player. He's a dynamic player. When he is out on the ice, he demands, control of the puck. And really, he's just a talent that's going to fall possibly. I don't know why most, people have him ranked so low because he did so much this year. But, he's one of those guys like Alex Gendron who's going to be down there, who you can draft, and who's going to be able to go bursting through the different levels of your team's prospect rankings because of what he can do offensively. And he's just another guy that could be put into that cabinet for the Flyers that could develop over the next year or two to something great. Who knows?
Gosh, it seems like in this draft, so far in this draft, you've selected one defenseman and one goaltender, and the rest have been offensive players. Need offense much?
Definitely do. We definitely do. But
Oh
in
gosh.
in the second, it potentially the second, sixth round pick that the Flyers have through via trades and all that other stuff. I would like to see them take a chance at another Brooks Bandit player
Yeah.
in Sam Court.
Yeah.
I really like this guy. He's only 5'10", but he's 190 pounds. He's very stocky.
Thick.
Yep, thick. He's a right-hand shot defender. Who came to the Bandits just this year and really, really showed out. Um, he had 13 goals, 59 assists for 72 points in 52 games played this season, a 1.38 points per game
In his
average.
first season with the Bandits.
In his first season with the Bandits, he helped them get back to reach their three-peat, the Centennial Cup, which is not only the AJHL championship, but go on to win the Centennial Cup, which is all the junior teams from that level, and beat all of them as well. So
For the
he's
third time in a row. So
third time in a
big
row, right?
Congratulations to the Brooks Bandits for that, man.
Right. So he came out there and led the defense, and not only was he defensively responsible and playing, but he has great offensive talent as well. When able to jump up, he does produce.
I'm excited, man. I am excited about that. I would.
And above all that, he's going to be coming to the University of New Hampshire to play. So he's going to go and get some experience in the NCAA, which I think, is going to be great for him, just like it was great for, the other guys that came down and played, this season from Brooks. So many people kind of doubt these guys, but Ryan McAllister in his rookie year was able to garner himself a deal with the Florida Panthers because he did so well in the NCAA.
And where's
year.
The Florida Panthers right now? Oh, that's right, they're playing for the Cup.
Right. So a great young defenseman in a sense there that could be a steal late in the draft for sure.
Okay, I'm with you on that. And just about every player that we've talked about or looked at from the Brooks Bandits has been a pretty darn good player for the most part, no matter what, and in any level from where they've come from to when they come to the Brooks Bandits. They just have a way of finding those players, and the NHL and the AHL are the beneficiaries of these great players. Excuse me. So let's wrap this up with our 7th round pick for the Philadelphia Flyers in the draft for 2023, and that player is.
So yes, I think that player should be um, an NHL basically Hall of Fame pedigree player in Calvin Valchon. He's a
Yeah.
goaltender that comes from Shawshank St. Mary's U18 prep team as well. But he's the grandson of Rogie Valchon, the great LA Kings goaltender who is Hall of Famer, right?
Wow.
He's
Hey,
he's
all right.
he's classically trained by Rogie, and it shows in his play. I really like his game. Very underrated guy that played in a high school, preparatory school, and not in some of the bigger leagues. So, a lot of people don't even know about him. But, me being a goaltender, I found this kid, and I really, really like him. I compare him to maybe a Devon Levi who found out of the CCHL, out of Canada League years ago and back in my 2020 draft, right? That I
Yeah.
said I really, really like this kid. I think he's going to be somebody that everybody overlooks because he plays in a smaller league, but I think he has all the intangibles to be great. And now look at him. He won Mike Richter's awards in the NCAA, and now he signed with the Buffalo Sabres and doing great there. So I really think this is an amazing talent that we could scoop up with a 7th-round pick. And to go over some of his greatness here, he's a 6-foot goaltender that was able to win 22 games this year, 6 being by way of the shutout, and
Nice.
he maintained a 2.00 goals against average and
Wow.
a .929 save percentage. But he's been doing this for years, folks. He's a phenomenal player who back when he was very young and playing for the Los Angeles Junior Kings, right? In 57 games played, his goals against average when he was like 12 or 13, 14 was 0.59. All right. So he's been dominant since like he first
Holy
strapped on the
moly.
pads. All right. This kid is a proven winner,
Wow.
and I really, really like him. And I think the Flyers should take a chance on him in the 7th and take
The
some
next
time and
golden
let him
child.
develop.
The next golden child. We've seen it right here, folks. The great Lance Green, man, has now predicted the next golden child goaltender. And you know what? Everything that I've seen about him does point to that. He does look very polished. Um he's very precise. He's always in position. You know what I mean? Like he has good anticipation, but he's always in position. He has good. He sees the plays develop, and he sees the ice very well. You know what I mean? And so I think that's something that's very good for a goaltender. Well, there you have it, folks. The Lance Green annual 7-round mock draft for the Philadelphia Flyers. It was filled with uh, banner hanging players and some depth players and some superstars in the making, I think, maybe. And I got to tell you, man, I'm excited about the draft because we've talked to a couple of the guys that we feel are going to be drafted, and I'm excited for this draft because there's a lot of talent in this draft, and I want to see I want to see how some of this talent um, develops over the next 2 or 3 seasons, because the next 2 or 3 drafts, even after this one, are going to be pretty stacked. I mean, I don't think we're going to have quite the stack of generational talents in the next 2 seasons like there is in this draft, I think, but I still think that the next 2 drafts are going to be stacked with good quality players, and it would behoove the Flyers to be able to try to get as much capital as possible, because let's face it, the Flyers don't have any money, so you're not going to be able to build through free agency, and the phase that you need to worry about, like your or Atard or some of those other guys, that you need to worry about and get signed, that's going to take up your cap space. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to have to do it by the draft. That's really the only way they're going to be able to do it over the couple seasons. So, Lance, I'll tell you what, my man, this was awesome, dude. I love when you do these.
Yeah, and I have a great article coming out now with the state of the Flyers, how it is. So I think that you guys will like that as well. I'm trying to put the finishing touches on it either today or tomorrow and hopefully get it
Awesome.
out there. It's pretty in depth and points out a lot of
Your stuff
as
always
yeah.
is in depth, Lance. You know, look, so I want to go out of my way to say big, huge thank yous to all of you folks out there for your support. On one of the lists out there, we're ranked 11th as far as Philadelphia Flyers podcasts, and another list we're ranked 6th. Okay. So that's all big thanks to you guys out there for your support by going to all of your podcasting platforms like iHeart or Google or Amazon or Apple or Spotify and typing in Hockey Writers Inc. and finding us and giving us a 5-star rating. That's what helps us to get ranked higher. The higher rankings we get, the easier it is for you guys to find that information about the Philadelphia Flyers. Big thank you to all of you there for all of your support and all of your following and subscriptions and everything like that, man. We really appreciate that. And we couldn't do this if it wouldn't be for you guys. And that's one of the reasons why we do this is because you guys out there keep us going and keep us flying. So thank you very much to that. Props to that. And props to you, Mr. Lance. Extraordinaire, the editor-in-chief of SteelFlyers.com. Thanks to you and your writing, the SteelFlyers.com website now garners over 2,555 clicks per week. That's all big props and thanks to the writer extraordinaire with all of your great articles, because guess what? All of your articles are in the top 5. So thank you for that, my man. Really appreciate that. Why don't you tell the folks where we can find you and where we can get you?
Yeah, sure, guys. I appreciate everything, like Steele said, all the, good publicity, and you guys always tuning in or reading my stuff. I appreciate it. You can find me, at SteelFlyers.com. You can find all the shows we do there. You can find all my articles there, as well as on Twitter. You can hit me up, ask me any questions you want or anything like that at Lance Green 39. The number's 39.
Awesome sauce, man. We'll be definitely checking that out for sure. You can check out the Hockey Writers Inc. on Twitter at HCKEYWRITERS Inc. So that's Hockey Writers Inc. on Twitter. So check that out and follow us there on that. You can find me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52, and you can find all the great work that everybody does on the SteelFlyers All Sports Network at SteelFlyers.com. You can go there and get a t-shirt, the Hockey Writers Inc. t-shirt. You can go there and check out the latest article from Lance, his latest 7th round mock draft, or you could check out a Prospect Watch show. Be sure to check that out as well there with our latest guest on there too, and be looking forward to some of that great stuff too in the future. Thank you all for watching and checking us out. I'm Steel Flyers, your co-host, and we'll catch you guys all on the next episode of the Hockey Writers Inc. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.